It'd be a slight understatement to say OpenAI has had some controversy recently. However, regardless of my thoughts on OpenAI as a company, I have to admit the scale they work on is insane. They handle 2.5 billion prompts a day from 800 million users. And recently, they went into detail on how they're able to pull it off. We're going to get our hands dirty and go into detail on some good old architecture.
Do you think the new
software engineers
survive back in the day?
Hell no.
To start, we're going to have to infiltrate OpenAI by being a regular ChatGPT user. Problems started to arise instantly. When ChatGPT launched, it gained 1 million users in 5 days. Their infrastructure started to crumble. They knew they had to scale, and at the heart of their architecture was a small unknown database called Postgres. Their setup is actually pretty straightforward. They have a writer instance with read replicas. The writer instance is responsible for inserts, updates, and deletes to the database, while the reader instance is used to retrieve data and cannot and has no permission to modify data within the database. This is where things get a little crazy. Their entire database setup was 50 reader instances and only one single writer. This single writer instance was responsible for all database changes, inserts, deletes, updates, and then it would get synced across all 50 reader instances using write-ahead logs. Now, some experienced developers might ask, why didn't they shard the primary writer instance? Well, they explained that. They said it would be highly complex and time-consuming, requiring changes to hundreds of applications, endpoints, and potentially taking months or even years. And I think this is a great example of be extremely cautious when you want to rewrite something. I've seen moments where rewrites take months and years, and the rewrite itself becomes a problem and just not worth it over iterating and improving what you have. Now, what happens if there's a sudden surge of write requests? Well, the engineers made sure that the majority, if not all, read requests go through read replicas and not through the primary write instance, meaning reading data would not be affected. And if it's not possible to go through a read replica and it has to go through the writer replica, they ensure that the queries are extremely efficient. And for extremely heavy write workloads, they've been a little cheeky with it and used Daddy Microsoft's Azure Cosmo DB on the side. And for new applications and features, they also go to Cosmo DB instead of this primary Postgres database. So those epic Sora videos you've been seeing, the metadata is probably going to Cosmo DB and not straight here.
For me, I'm gonna open the door. Oh, stop, you gotta be kidding me.
And let's say you have to make a change to the database. You added a new column and then you have to backfill all the data for the existing rows. Let's say you added a profile picture column to the AI girlfriends table. So you have to go in and add a default picture for all existing rows. In that case, applications making those kinds of changes have rate limiting set. And I assume they also set it within their CI/CD pipelines. Oh wait, do you hear that? Your AI girlfriend is trying to say something. What's this? She wants you to become a better problem solver? Well, luckily, Brilliant Son is here to save you. Brilliant helps you excel in math and computer science with visual, interactive problem solving and personalized practice, which we all need to help fight off that AI brain rot. I think with Brilliant, anyone could become a math or computer science person. With Brilliant, you don't just memorize formulas, you get some hands-on experience with concepts until they make sense to you. Brilliant guides you till you get your, you know what? That actually kind of makes sense moment, helping you develop the intuition and problem-solving skills you need to figure things out on your own. And I truly believe in this AI era, understanding the fundamentals will make you stand out. To learn for free on Brilliant for a full 30 days, go to brilliant.org/basic dev, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in the description. Brilliant's also giving my viewers, aka you, 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. So thank you, Brilliant, for sponsoring this video, and welcome back. Even though I know you didn't skip, right? Next, the team at OpenAI took a look at their queries. They noticed when huge volume spikes happened, queries would consume large amounts of CPU, slowing down ChatGPT and their API requests. When digging, they found a query that joined 12 different tables, which is insane, and it was the cause of a few high sev incidents. And you might say, wait, how did any OpenAI employee miss this query? Well, what happened was they were using an ORM, an object relational mapping framework. And most of these frameworks actually hide the queries they're really running. A popular example is Prisma. For example, in Prisma, there's an include option, which fetches related data from other tables. It seems like it should be a joint statement, but it wasn't. Instead, Prisma would send multiple individual queries to fetch this data. I think this was changed later on, but it just goes to show you don't truly know what's under the hood sometimes. And a fun little tidbit they shared is for long-running idle queries in Postgres, configuring timeouts like idle in transaction session timeout is essential to prevent them from blocking auto vacuum, which is a background process in Postgres that does maintenance. Might have to sprinkle that into my own queries to appease the boss. Now you might be thinking to yourself, there's only one single writer instance. What if something happens to it? What if it like blew up or something? Well, in most applications, a reader instance would actually get promoted and become the writer instance. But since this is OpenAI, these are not normal circumstances. They had another writer replica that was continuously being synced with their primary one. So if anything ever happened, that one could be instantly flipped over as the primary. However, this you can't just implement in your AI B2B SaaS app because this is a special thing Microsoft did for OpenAI. They might be completely destroying Windows, but at least they keep ChatGPT safe.
Don't cry, little Windows user. Uncle Microsoft has enough spyware bloatware to last your entire life. Microsoft, bring me more unneeded apps. The boy's hungry.
I hear you saying something right in the back. You're saying, hypothetically, what if me and 5,000 of my boys get together and start just making write requests to OpenAI's API? What if we just do that? Well, you tricky devil, you've realized there is a maximum 5,000 connection limit in Azure Postgres. But sadly for you, OpenAI hired a bouncer. Specifically PG Bouncer. It essentially manages the connection pool and kicks out any stale connections or anything that might be affecting the connection pool. It's extremely useful, especially in Kubernetes cluster situations. The team at OpenAI warns PG Bouncer must be configured carefully. Settings like idle timeouts are critical to prevent connection exhaustion. And one of the most interesting limitations I saw in OpenAI's write-up is their schema management. They said even a small schema change such as altering a column type can trigger a full table rewrite, which is how Postgres works. We therefore apply schema changes cautiously, limiting them to lightweight operations and avoiding any that rewrite entire tables. We enforce a strict 5-second timeout on schema changes. Creating and dropping indexes concurrently is allowed. Schema changes are restricted to existing tables only. If a new feature requires additional tables, they must be in an alternative sharded system such as Azure Cosmos DB rather than PostgreSQL. When backfilling a table field, we apply strict rate limiting to prevent write spikes. Although this process can sometimes take over a week, which is crazy, a week to backfill, it ensures stability and avoids any production impact. I have seen similar restrictions at other places I've worked, and if you're ever wondering why there's less and less features being released at OpenAI or any company, limitations like this is the primary reason. Now, not everything is sunshine and rainbows for OpenAI, and they do have something they haven't fully figured out yet. As you've seen in their architecture, they have 50 read replicas being serviced by one writer instance. And this writer instance has to send write-ahead locks to every single read replica, otherwise they'll be out of sync. And now some of you see the issue. They can't just keep adding reader instances because that will overwhelm the primary writer, since now it has to send way too many logs to way too many readers. They are trying out something called cascading replication. In this approach, the primary instance would send the write-ahead locks to intermediate replicas, and then those would send the write-ahead locks to the actual read replicas. This is currently in their testing phase, and mere mortals like us can't get our hands on it because this, once again, is a special favor from Microsoft. Those tips and tricks are insane, and they're what keep OpenAI running and scaling. They're also just things I can apply at my workplace or my side projects today. There were a lot more details in the article that I didn't cover, so I'll leave it down in the description below. But if you want to join my AI SaaS B2B note-taking app before I sell it to Palantir, make sure you like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.